Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. Update. My wife and her best friend accused me of having an affair, then got angry when I didn't have one. Original post. I, 31 male, and my wife, 29 female, had a baby last December. It was a traumatic birth, and my wife developed postpartum depression. While she was originally going to go back to work after the birth, she's been struggling enough that we decided to wait until our daughter was a year old and reassess. She has been going to therapy weekly. With my wife home full-time, I've had to work increased hours. This is something we discussed prior to making this decision, and she knew this from the start. A few weeks ago, my boss approached me about a project that would require a lot of overtime in a short amount of time. It would both be great financially and for my career. I talked to my wife about it, and she agreed that I should say yes to my boss. For the 4 weeks I'd be working on this, my mother-in-law and her best friend, Jessie, 29 female, would come help out with some of the duties that I typically do. Jessie is a stay-at-home mom with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. She began coming over during the day and would watch the kids with my wife. 3 weeks into the project, it became clear that we'd need a few more weeks to get it together. I went home that night and talked to my wife about it. She said she was okay with it, but got very cold in the days after. It wasn't unusual behavior over the past few months, so I didn't think much about it and tried not to take it personally. During the last week of the project, I got home one night and saw that Jessie was still at the house. I didn't think much about it, said hi to her and my wife, and then went to go check on our daughter. Before I could get to her room, I heard Jessie say something along the lines of, "He doesn't even stop to greet you." Definitely a sign. I turned around and asked what it was a sign of. Immediately, my wife started crying, and Jessie started accusing me of having an affair. She told me that I must hate my wife because she has PPD, and I'm not attracted to her because she gained weight from the pregnancy. Neither of these things are true. I'm trying my best to help my wife through her PPD while supporting our family. And I think she looks great how she is right now, she just hasn't wanted to be intimate, and I haven't pushed. Jessie then demanded to see my phone. I told her no. She told me that's a sign that I'm guilty. I told my wife that I would let her see my phone if she wanted to. She nodded, and something inside me broke. I guess it was the thought that she actually believed I was having an affair that really got to me, and that she didn't trust me after everything we've been through. Well, she looked through the phone and there was no evidence. Jessie started saying that I deleted the evidence. She started screaming and woke up our daughter, so I told her to get out of the house. Eventually she left, and I went to calm our daughter since my wife was still on the couch crying. When my daughter was asleep again, I sat down by my wife and tried to talk to her about what's been happening. She told me that she's been worried ever since I started working all the overtime. I told her that we'd talked about how good of an opportunity it was, and she agreed to letting me take on this project. She said it was very suspicious to increase the length of the project. I told her that sometimes that happens. She wanted more evidence, so I showed her messages and emails with timestamps from work and pay stubs showing the overtime. She said she believed me and was sorry for doubting me. It was just that Jessie had been telling her that these were all signs that I was cheating. I asked her why she believed Jessie more than me and why she didn't come to me with her concerns. She didn't have a real answer. It's been a couple weeks and the project is over. I actually scaled back and am trying to work a little less than I was before the project so I can spend more time with my wife and daughter. But I feel so burnt out trying to do everything and becoming resentful because in the back of my mind, I know that my wife doesn't trust me. I ask myself, what happens the next time I have a project? Or I have to run errands one day? Or if I have a business trip? Am I going to come back every time to accusations that I'm cheating? I've tried bringing it up a couple times, but my wife tells me it's not the time and that she's tired or sad. I try to be mindful of her feelings, but I wonder if that means that I can never have any of my own. I'm not sure what to do here. Any advice for how I can move forward? Now for the top advice before reading the update. You need couples therapy and to ditch Jessie. I agree with this. This is a horrible friend to your wife. She needs therapy. I've had PPD and it's the most horrible mental experience, and if you guys don't get help and disconnect from this Jessie person, she may try something worse. Best of luck. I'm wondering why Jessie was around so much in the first place and if there are any alternatives. It sounds like Jessie path of least resistance herself into wife's home. Wife is probably lonely and needs another adult to talk to. I'm curious if she can join a group, maybe for new moms, or maybe just a general hobby group to help her stay grounded and socialized. She's in an incredibly vulnerable place right now. I'm glad she came around, and it makes sense that OP is hurt by this. Both of them could probably benefit from axing Jessie, replacing her with some good influences, and taking some time to reconnect. This is a horrible situation, made worse by your wife's friend, who is possibly projecting her own relationship issues on you guys. I would go to couples counseling and keep reassuring your wife that you love her. Depression makes you think crazy things. I hope the best for you. This sounds to me like Jessie is projecting onto your already very vulnerable wife. I'm happy to hear your wife is already seeing a therapist and totally agree that couples counseling is important. But just so you know, your feelings are valid. You are pushing yourself too hard and stretching yourself too thin. It's okay to feel the way you do, but please make sure you address your feelings. Don't bury them because it's not the right time. It won't ever be the right time, which is where couples counseling can come in to help force the conversation. You sound like a wonderful husband, and your wife sounds like she is pretty great too, and hopefully with some help, you'll be back to your new normal with your little family. Best of luck, man. So much this. From your story, it sounds like your wife loves you very much. She has just been having a lot of insecurities. This is less about you and more about her feeling good about herself. When we are depressed like this, we see the worst version of ourselves in our own mind. I am a guy and so I have not had PPD, but I have suffered with depression years ago, after some hard times in my life. I guess the point is, if she feels good about herself or she can learn to see herself through your eyes, the eyes of someone who loves her, it will heal a lot of this. A couples counselor will definitely help, but in the meantime, you need to do everything you can to build her up and focus on her. This is just part of the living promise marriage is. You carry her until she carries you and on till the race is done. Best of luck to you and your family, sir. Now for the first update. Thank you to everyone for all of the advice and support on my previous post. I think a lot of you pointed out what should have been obvious, that I need to get a therapist and start looking after my own mental health. A couple people asked for an update, so I'm giving one, but it's not happy. That night, I approached my wife and told her that I was going to find a therapist. I didn't connect it to her accusations or anything, just said that I was having a tough time and needed therapy. She shrugged and told me to do whatever. Next day, I got home from work, and our room and my home office were ripped apart. Things everywhere. Important papers scattered. I don't see her, but our daughter is in her room crying. My wife left her alone, her cell phone's off. So I call my in-laws and a few friends, but no one has seen her. I'm starting to get worried, and I call my mom to see if she can babysit while I go out and look for her. Before my mom can get home, my wife gets back, with Jessie driving. Jessie doesn't come in. She hasn't been back in the house since I kicked her out because she was offended by my behavior. But my wife does. She's clearly upset and has been crying. I ask what happened. I thought at first the house might have been robbed. She starts screaming at me that I'm being unfaithful and that the therapy is a front so I can meet my mistress. I try to calm her down and tell her that's not true, but she came at me and she hit me. My nose is broken. She kind of realized what she did and sat down on the couch and went comatose, just stared at the wall. I went into my daughter's room and locked the door. Called my mom to tell her what happened. She was already on her way, and my mother-in-law to ask her to come over and take care of my wife. I packed a bag for my daughter, and when my mom got there, we left. My wife didn't even look up. We dropped my daughter off with my dad and then went to urgent care for my nose. I got blood all over my mom's new Subaru. My daughter and I are staying with my parents for a while, and my wife's staying with hers. I am looking into getting a restraining order against Jessie. My wife and I are separating. I love her, but I won't live with someone who hurts me and who could potentially hurt our daughter. I am not going forward with a divorce yet, with the hopes that my wife will get the treatment she needs and we can work things out. My in-laws told me that they're looking at inpatient treatment at a local hospital. But I also have everything well documented in case of an eventual custody battle. My heart's broken because I know this isn't my wife, this is a sickness in her mind. But I need to keep myself and our daughter safe and give her the space to recover. I'm hoping that this is the right decision. Thanks again, everyone. Screw Jessie. I'm not saying she's the cause of all this, but she definitely was the catalyst. Bet she enjoyed the circus show she helped produce. Yeah, sounds like she tried to brainwash OP's wife at every chance and was for the most part successful. This is some premeditated psychopath stuff. I hope for the best, OP. Your wife left your baby at home alone, and then proceeded to break your nose. I think you need to see a lawyer as soon as possible to ensure she is not left alone with your daughter again until she is mentally healthy. Seriously, there should be no coming back after leaving your baby home alone. I mean, do you really want to be with a woman who actively chose to put your child in danger? Your old wife is gone and forever will be. Divorce now while you still have the upper hand. Your wife's behavior is polluting your innocent daughter's mind, and your daughter is subconsciously starting to believe this is all normal and okay. Don't let that happen. Well, from reading this in your previous post, it sounds like Jessie deliberately got in your wife's ear in order to ruin your marriage. More than likely, her life is a shambles and she wanted your wife's to be in a shambles too. For her to be with your wife and not of the baby is pathological. Good for you for having your child with you and for working to get Jessie out of your life. She will not be happy until your marriage has been completely destroyed along with your wife. Jessie is pathological. She most definitely isn't a friend. She did what she was accusing you of. She didn't care about your wife at all and caused this break. You are right to get yourself into counseling. You have a long road ahead of you. Keeping you and your daughter safe are your main concern. I am sorry this happened. Jessie took advantage of your wife's vulnerability and planted her evil thoughts in your wife's head. Well, there are no words for what she did other than evil and psychotic. I wonder what her end game is. It seems like she is enjoying the show and will probably abandon OP's wife when the crap hits the fan. I am sorry this is happening to you, OP, and I am glad you have support systems close by. Edit. Thank you all for your feedback. I've talked to my parents after reading your comments and came to the conclusion that for my daughter's protection, I need to file a police report. I am headed to the station now. Now for the second update a week later. My wife passed on early Monday morning. Convinced by her friend Jessie that I was having an affair that I did not have, she had a mental break, which resulted in my taking our infant daughter and staying with my parents for a while. She was with her parents, who planned on taking her to the hospital for inpatient treatment on Monday. On Sunday night, she came to my parents' house and demanded I give her our daughter. Because she had left her alone for several hours the last time she was responsible for her and had gotten physical with me, I refused. I offered to let her come in and spend time with her while my parents and I were present, but she didn't want to come in and wanted to take our daughter with her. She was upset but left eventually. A few hours later, she drove her parents' car into a tree and died. The friend, Jessie, came to see my daughter and me yesterday. After some tears, she told me that she was planning to speak at my wife's funeral. She had already cleared it with my in-laws, but was letting me know as a courtesy. I told her she would not be speaking at the funeral. We fought, and she left after telling me that I was a jerk and not the only person who loved my wife. I talked to my in-laws who were adamant that Jessie be allowed to speak. She and my wife knew each other since they were kids, and my in-laws are close to her. We're all very fragile right now, and I fear that pushing this further would hurt my relationship with my in-laws, which I don't want. Still, the thought of seeing Jessie up there at my wife's funeral makes me feel sick. I don't think I can stand to listen to her, knowing that she took joy in my wife's deteriorating mental health and picked up my wife, leaving my daughter home alone. That being said, I don't trust myself to make the best decisions right now. My mind's clouded by grief, guilt, and fear. My parents are split on what to do, and I don't have the energy to reach out to my friends. So, I'm coming here again to ask for your advice. Thank you. Do they know what went down? They do, to an extent. They know she accused me of an affair and was with my wife while our daughter was alone. I don't think they understand the extent it went on. They said that they don't really want to hear anything about it, since they've already lost their daughter and don't want to lose Jessie too. If you don't want Jessie in your life, even peripherally, you're going to need to tell your in-laws that they can keep her or keep you and their granddaughter, but not both. And they need to hear the true extent of Jessie's involvement. They're doing their daughter's memory a disservice. Jessie's drama already got one person killed, and she's not done yet. I'm glad Reddit convinced him the wife was a danger to his child. It is tragic enough that one person died in that car. A few years ago, I was caring for the child of a self-harming person for a few weeks while she was in a care facility. When she got out, she was staying with me and acting erratic. She snapped and got scary. She stormed out of my house and sped away in her car. When she came back, I refused to allow her to take her child away without her husband present. To this day, she says I kidnapped her child, and she hates my guts. The relationship is over, but I would do it again because I was certain she'd end herself and the child by getting in an accident. All I could think was that I had to protect the baby. As a father of 2, 3 and under, I've read this and been wondering how I would describe her death to his daughter when she is older if I were in his shoes. What a sad situation. I would say she was very sick. Her brain was telling her things that weren't true, and she lost her fight with it. She was also getting so really bad advice from some of the people around her. It wasn't about loving daughter. Any negative feelings were what she feared she lacked, not anything that daughter lacked. It has to be incredibly hard. I don't envy him this conversation, but I am glad he didn't let his wife take their daughter that night. Yeah. To be honest, I wouldn't even add in about the other people. All that leaves the child with is extra questions that they will eventually want answers to. And honestly, since Jesse is not going to be a part of the girl's life anyway, what would the whole point be in kind of hinting that there's more to the story? And creating this hatred in the daughter's heart that is not going to serve a purpose or have a resolution. If I were OP, I would just share memories of how her mom was before her depression, her interests, talents, quirks, habits, likes and dislikes. Since OP and his wife were married in around 30-ish, I'm making the vague assumption their child was something they planned and wished for. So I'd talk about that too. Make it very clear that OP's wife had love for her and wanted to be her mom. Despite the depression, those were her feelings towards her daughter. Then tell her that after she was born her mom got sick, and she died because of it. Maybe when OP's daughter is an adult, he could talk more openly about the details. But I think for a kid it's enough to know that mom was sick.